Well, welcome everyone to another episode of the LTD Leadership Lean In, where our goal is to help you lead like never before in your hotel and in your home. I'm Sam, the Vice President of Sales and Culture here at LTD, and joining me is Lawanda Tillet, our HR Manager. And let me tell you that my sincere passion, our sincere passion, is to help you grow in your leadership, because everyone wins, right, when the leader gets better. And if you're new to our leadership community, let me make a promise to you. Our promise, Lawanda and I, is to deliver a new episode to you on the first day of every single month. And so I want to encourage you to subscribe and to really lean into this leadership lesson, and to also get the leader guide. We take some time and compile all of our notes and give you guys a leader guide. And I think it's really, really important because the leader guide has a detailed summary of all the content that we cover. There's questions there, there's detailed notes, and I think it's something really, really good to cover with your team. So you can check that out in the show notes below, whether in YouTube or on Spotify or on Apple. So in the show notes, there'll be a link to that leader guide. And I just want to encourage you guys to consider downloading that and using it.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Listening is one thing, but practical application, we all know that's where the real learning happens. That's where you get to really show and prove, so to speak. So I'm excited to dive into today's topic, which centers around leadership, behavior, management, and creating a culture of success. We're in our second episode of highlighting the book, Creating Winning Environments by Brett Ledbetter. So if you don't have it, you really need to get it. Cute little book. Thank you, Vanna.
I gotcha.
If you recall, our last episode was all about the first of the 3 keys to creating a winning environment, defining expectations. Today's lesson is focused on the second key, managing behavior, and is inspired by the idea of catching above the line behavior. Our next episode will discuss correcting the below the line behavior.
Yeah. So now, I guess before we get started, we'll do a little bit of a recap on the foundation of the discussion. And really that is, leadership is about setting expectations, right? It's about drawing a line between what's acceptable and what's not. And in fact, anytime you define a clear expectation, you're drawing a line between what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. We talked a lot about this in the book. They do a lot of references to collegiate coaches, to coaches of sports teams, pro teams, and youth teams even. And in the book, they reference the UNC women's soccer coach. Mm-hmm. And his name is Anson Dorrance. I may be pronouncing that wrong, but we'll go with it. And what he says is that players do what you inspect, not what you expect. And I think that really resonated deeply with me. And in the book, they also mention another book by Urban Myers, and he has the book, and it's actually titled Above the Line. And it really introduces this entire concept that any behavior meeting or exceeding the program standard is considered above the line behavior.
Right on point, Sam. When you think about what I posted in Crew today about meeting or exceeding our expectations, there's still time. The idea is that anything we meet or exceed the standard is communicated is also considered above the line behavior. Anything that doesn't is considered below the line behavior. And it's like you mentioned in today's episode, we're going to talk about and focus a little bit about catching that above the line behavior. And we've got 5 key questions from the book to guide us through catching the above the line behavior.
Yeah. So question 1, Lawanda, is, that they reference in the book is, what's your relationship with receiving praise, and how does it inform your approach with the people you lead?
So that's interesting, Sam. Praise can be a powerful tool, shaping our interactions and relationships with our teams. How do you think relationship with praise influences your leadership style?
Yeah, that's something to think about, right? And the second question is, what is your philosophy on praise?
Philosophy really matters. It's so key. Philosophy really does matter, and it just does set the tone for the entire team. What we believe really just it's clear and it's expected. And are you more inclined to catch people when you do things right or focus on what is wrong.
Right. Question 3, what is your biggest conflict with praise?
Listen, everybody has their challenges. What obstacles do you face when it comes to giving praise, and how can we overcome them to foster a positive, healthy environment?
And question 4, praise is the most effective when blank.
Okay, so we have a fill in the blank,
Yeah.
and you got to be creative about it. But when praise is most impactful, and how can we make it strategic part? How can we make it a strategic part of our leadership toolkit?
Yeah,
Kind of
I
like
think,
Superman. Well, like no,
yeah.
more like Batman.
Oh, yeah. I feel like the most key word in that is strategic, right? Strategically using praise in your toolkit. And last but not least, the fifth question that they want you to really ponder on is, how do you decide when to praise publicly versus privately?
For anything, I believe it's always about the context. Do you celebrate achievements openly, or do you prefer a more personal approach? That's also, you also have to consider the person as well. What's your
Yeah.
take on this delicate balance? So you
Right.
have to really consider that.
Yeah. Okay. So in the leader guide, all of those questions will be listed, and we want to encourage you to reflect on those yourself, but also have that conversation with your team. That what a great opportunity for you to learn how your team perceives praise and how they perceive your praise of them publicly versus privately. Those are great things because we're all individuals, and as a leader, we have to learn how to, lead the individual and the team as a whole. So right, so we're going to shift gears a little bit here. It's certainly easy to catch someone doing something wrong, right? But how often are we overlooking the positive things, the things that people are doing right? What are your thoughts on that, Lawanda?
So that's an interesting perspective. As leaders, there's often this Mr. Miss Fix It mentality ingrained in us, but sometimes we forget to reinforce the good things that happen right under our noses. It's so easy to see what's wrong, but it's more intentional. You have to be more intentional, more purposeful to actually highlight the things that are good and to be able to speak those things out.
That's so true. And I think that sometimes it takes experience, right? It takes experience to realize that catching the right things is just as crucial as addressing the wrong ones.
The author, he mentioned in the book, again, we're talking about our book, You Really Got to Get Vanna.
I'm going to bring it back up.
What drives winning environments? He mentioned in the book that one of the most highlighted college coaches admitted that for about 20 years, he got it wrong by always pointing out what was wrong. And I know that sounds kind of like that sentence kind of sounds oxymoronic, like he all got it wrong by pointing out what was wrong.
Yep.
So I wonder, why do you think it took him so long to shift? Because it is a mindset. What do you think took him so long to shift his mind to say, let me look at this through a different lens?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I think, from my understanding, this coach was relatively successful. He was an average to above average performance. And I think that in a lot of circumstances, winning can blind us to the need for change. When things are going well, you're not reflecting, you're not taking the time to see, hey, what could we be doing differently, or what could we be doing better? But what happens when things start to go bad? And we say when, not if. It will very likely, the tide will change at some point. We all know this. We've all been in leadership positions. We have seasons. We have seasons of good and bad, where things seem to all be going the right way, and then sometimes the tide changes. And the book really highlights the importance of using positive speak and recognizing strengths. And that's really what's going to help you build that right culture, especially when you're pulling a team out of a rut.
It's interesting. It's interesting, this conversation we're having, because you and I just had a conversation, as I say, in the green room before we
Yes.
before we
Yes.
actually started this conversation. And it just puts some things in perspective for me as we do this, because it's about finding that balance between keeping it real and acknowledging the positive aspects. And I love the example in the book about acknowledging a good pass, even if the ball is dropped, And
Yeah.
I'm a football fan, so I love, love, love a good pass. Nothing more exciting than that. And being positive speaking can truly make a difference. You know, when you think about somebody dropping the ball, well, if you focus on that, they're not going to want to do better and actually make the pass connect next time. So
Yeah, no, it's so good. It's saying, it's recognizing, okay, in that play, yes, we did drop the ball, but did that necessarily mean that the pass was not right? Or what, there's certainly opportunities when one component went well, it's just it didn't it didn't follow through. And I think that our experiences really, like we were just talking about in the hotels, they definitely align with these insights. And as successful leaders, there is always room to reevaluate and to refine our approach. Always. Our vision is the constant pursuit to be better. And so it's not just about catching the wrong things, but it's also about, recognizing the many good things that lead up to that moment. And that's why it's so important that we focus on the process versus the outcome, right? The lead indicators, we talk about this with our wildly important goals, the lead indicators of success versus the lag indicators of success, the things that are within our area of control versus outcomes that are outside of our area of control.
And that's right, Sam. You have to retrain yourself. It's probably a better way of looking at it is to learn, to unlearn. They say, to unlearn certain behaviors. So you have to retrain yourselves continually and understand that even in success, there's always a better way to lead, teach, and coach. Always. And the book really made me reflect on a thought that we often focus on outcomes rather than the behaviors driving those outcomes. And that's so true. We always look at what actually happened, but there was something that was going on that led up to the outcome, good or bad. There was always something that was leading up to that. So what are your thoughts on that, Sam?
I definitely think it's a powerful reminder. And, I think our lens, the way we view things is like you said, it's almost always fixed on the final result. I'm in sales. And so we are certainly a performance driven unit, and we are oftentimes focused on that final result, on that outcome of whatever that goal or that objective is. And when we're struggling to meet that outcome, we oftentimes will forget or to celebrate and to think about, hey, all of the positive behaviors and the actions that could have led to that success. And we have to remember that sometimes outcomes are just outside of our area of control. In a current circumstance, right, where we're dealing with, a government shutdown, potential shutdown or war, or there are all sorts of things that impact our business. And we can do all the right things, making sure we're doing all of the correct behaviors. And we still may miss the mark, but that doesn't mean that we don't celebrate the fact that we were diligent and faithful in doing all of the correct behaviors to at least get us as close as we could to meeting that outcome. And so, with that, that's all great theoretically. we talk about it theoretically, but I think, Lawanda, maybe we can explore some more practical strategies to help us actually do the thing that we're talking about.
Absolutely. And but I want to say what you say is a powerful reminder, though, about keeping the main thing, and going back to what we mentioned earlier about keeping it in context. And often our lens is fixed on the final result. And that's just not just here in the hotel industry. It's just even when you think about social media, we see somebody who is an influencer. We see this person who is a star, like the Taylor Swifts and the P. Diddy's and all those people that they're there, but we don't know their story. We don't know that path that they took. And so when we get our minds fixed on the final result, we can forget to celebrate some of the positive behaviors and actions that led to the success. It's about celebrating those wins along the way. And so I think we should explore some options. So let's look at some practical strategies, because like you said, in theory is good, but who doesn't love a good tool or a good opportunity to go snatch something out and say, oh, I can use this. So what's your first one?
So we'll talk a little bit about the praise model. So the praise model in coaching really leads teams. And there's this model of excellence and a standard of how we do things. And so when someone demonstrates the desired behavior, you want to praise them in the moment, right? I always say stories sell. In sales culture, we love to tell stories because they resonate. People remember them. And telling stories, giving examples of, how team members are holding the standard, that is really called, praising the model behavior.
Mhm.
Those can help you catch that above the line behavior. And the book offers a ton of examples really that showcase how positive reinforcement can shape a player's response and really contribute to the overall team culture. So I guess praise the model is all about educating everyone on what the standard looks like. That's how they talk about it in the book, that praising the model is about shifting the focus from outcomes to behaviors and really using positive reinforcement to drive the right culture. And, I believe that great leaders understand that realistically, we can't cover everything before we start, right? When we're bringing on a new associate or we're training someone new, in a perfect world, we would be able to cover 100% of everything that they would ever need to know to be successful in that role, right? But that's not real life. So how do we, obviously we need to train and equip. We need to make sure that we're giving them as much of that training and onboarding as we can. But as we progress, what are ways that we can continue to sort of train and teach and show? And how do we do that? By praising the model. When you praise the model in the present moment, it's a way for you to educate everyone in the environment on what your standard is.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. I like that, modeling in the moment. Yeah, I like that. So next up would be orchestrating peer recognition. Leaders can sit down with individual associates, express confidence in their abilities. I love that part because that's just that positive reinforcement, and provide specific suggestions for positive behaviors. Encouraging peer-to-peer recognition, which is like our star. We already have places where we do that now. You can do it in crew, or you can have a star player, but finding places where you can do peer-to-peer recognition, it creates a powerful connection within the team. And it's when a teammate acknowledges another's strengths, it becomes a force multiplier. And you want to take somebody who's really, really good that influences somebody else and just keep multiplying and replicating the same behavior and the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, in one of our very first episodes, Lawanda, way back when, we talked about, when we were defining what is a leader, we made sure that everybody knew that everyone is a leader because everyone has influence. And leadership is influence. And so even if someone on that team doesn't necessarily have a title that says they're the leader, that doesn't mean that they don't have influence. They absolutely have influence, and they have an opportunity to lead by showing the way, by demonstrating what the expectations are, showing what's positive. And I really feel like the impact of peer recognition, it goes way beyond, what a leader can achieve alone, right? So when it's just the leader praising, it's meaningful, but what happens, right, when you have another peer recognizing the impact that they're making? And I think it's about creating this positive, supportive environment where everyone is responsible for reinforcing the model. And I feel like, just like you mentioned, right, we have this awesome tool with the Crew app, and I think it's become easier and easier to facilitate these peer shout outs. And I think by having the shout outs, we'll call them a shout out, right? It brings it brings to light certain things that maybe otherwise would have never gotten brought up. And I think it ultimately will increase the functionality of a team. And that's really the key word, right? It's a team. And so yes, crew is a great opportunity, but maybe in your morning huddles, my team as an example, I'll just use my team as an example. We have a monthly gathering, and we start every single every single meeting with, we call them, we celebrate successes and shout outs. And so I always encourage my team to shout out a team member who's living out our values and our imperatives, and tell us, how are they doing that? What are they doing, by holding the line, or showing us above and beyond behavior. And those are things that we want to celebrate, and it helps show the rest of the team, hey, this is what's being celebrated on this team, and if I do more of this, then then I'm on the right track. So
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it any better. And I think if you said any more, I mean, it just goes back, like you said, it's about you're modeling in this moment what it means to give praise and shout out. So, and that's the thing about a leader. It's not always about the where or how, it's just about how you allow other people to shine and how you encourage other people to shine and to move. And so with that being said, let's explore the strategy of identifying behavioral streaks.
mm-hmm.
So, when you get on a good streak, you got a good thing going. How can we keep this good thing going? Leaders can encourage the team members to set goals for positive behaviors and track their progress, whether it's building a streak of consistent performance or overcoming unproductive habits. So even that's a win. And this strategy, it focuses on building a consistent and positive team culture. And that's what we're working towards, creating a culture that's positive and healthy. And they offer examples such as tracking time and attendance. I know that's something that's a little funny, but that's one of the examples they use about tracking time and attendance and celebrating those streaks of timeliness. I don't know if you guys remember when we were in school, we used to get awards at the end of each 9 weeks for who didn't miss one day of 9 weeks, or who didn't, and at the end of the year, who didn't miss one day of school. So it's funny how what we did in elementary really translates over to our adult life, because that's what it's talking about, using those examples of celebrating streaks of timeliness.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's kind of a gamification thing. And I don't, listen, I'm not on social media, but I do have nieces and nephews that are good. And I hear the word streak, and I'm not 100% sure what it means, but I know that they're seeking to maintain the streak. I think it may be in Snapchat. I'm not 100% sure, but nonetheless, it means something to them, right? So
Yep,
how do we identify, hey, what are some of the key behaviors, habits that we've learned really make us successful in achieving our outcomes, GSS outcomes, etc. If we've determined that being on time to the huddle, or huddle attendance, or whatever it might be, if that is something that we've all determined that this is something that helps us, this is a behavior that helps us achieve our ultimate goal, why not find some way to celebrate when we're a streak in achieving those things? And again, it's just another way, or a practical tool that the authors in the books and coaches from around the world have learned as a way to help them really drive productive habits. And like we said, these streaks are about reinforcing the right behaviors consistently. And, it's not just about that destination. It's not just about the outcome. It's about the journey, right? It's the day-to-day commitment to excellence. And I would say, one of the questions that I like to ask my team, whether it's in one-on-one situations or just, at the beginning or the end of a year, what is an unproductive habit that you need to say goodbye to, right? Or what's a productive habit that you want to commit to? And, whatever they identify on the team, the goal is to build a streak around that particular thing, to stack the days. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. There's a term called habit stacking, right? And, how many days can you stack? And that is what activates and I particularly lead a team of salespeople, so it certainly activates the competitive mode in order to, really change habits that, that don't either change habits that either don't align with their goals, or help them really commit to things that do align with their goals. And I guess the question, that we want to ask ourselves as leaders, the ultimate question is, how do we get the team addicted to the standard, right? In other words, like, how do we get them to want to do the work? This is what everybody's thinking all day, every day as a leader. And again, this is just, these streaks, creating these behavioral streaks, it's just a way to, highlight productive behavior, and really try to create some of the consistency that we feel that we've identified as leaders is necessary in pursuit of our goal.
And the timing of this, as we are ending 2023, and when you said some things we need to say goodbye to, some old habits or behaviors, and to things we need to say yes to, this stacking streak that you talked about, stacking the days, that's something that I think is so important, ending the year and setting the stage for 2024. And so with that, I'll say our final strategy, because I do like stacking. I like that one, stacking the days. That one's going to stay with me. Our final strategy is express appreciation. I love employee appreciation. If you don't know anything about me, I love when we celebrate our employees. And so I'm going to go back to Anson Dorrance, the coach at UNC. In the book, they detail his practice of writing letters to every senior on his roster before a national championship game. Now that's an example. What a profound example. Expressing genuine gratitude for the contributions of each team member creates a deep connection and fuels success. When I read this, I thought to myself, what's going on with those letters? And even had me thinking about what would I have done if I had gotten a letter from one of my teachers my senior year in high school, or even as I transitioned to a new job, if I had gotten a personal letter, what that would have done. And what does that speak to? And I think it just speaks to the power of genuine appreciation, recognizing that the team couldn't get as far as it did without you. And in high performing environments, it's very easy to take talent for granted, especially in our hotel industry. It's so easy because we keep hitting the scores, we keep getting the numbers, we keep making the benchmarks, and we're just going. And it's easy to take it for granted. And when that happens, it becomes a completely different atmosphere.
Yeah. I think expressing appreciation is, it's not just about, like meeting expectations, right? It's about going above and beyond to acknowledge the individual contributions that make a team strong, the individual contributions. And it's about sort of avoiding, and I think sometimes this was an interesting concept that they talked about in the book, this concept of entitlement, leadership entitlement, this entitlement that we feel as a leader, that we just expect because we're paying someone a salary or a job. This is definitely I think an old school way of thinking, of, hey, listen, like, I pay you to do the job, and they're really focusing on, from a culture perspective, and really driving a productive, healthy culture. It's about avoiding that entitlement philosophy or that leadership style, and really fostering, I guess, a more of a warm and appreciative environment. And I know that's hard for some people. Hey, I grew up in a military family. Both of my parents, were in the Air Force, and it was very much a sort of a command and control scenario. But were there? It may have worked, but were there better ways, right? And I think there, something to consider here is, expectations without appreciation can oftentimes lead to like a cold entitled environment. And I feel like if we don't appreciate our people for their contributions, I think that it would, have a negative effect, right, on the overall culture of the team. And one thing that I thought was super interesting that they pointed out in the book is they really wanted to delineate the difference, that there is a clear nuance between expressing appreciation, like we're talking about here, and that praise the model. So, praising the model, that strategy, that's used to educate everybody on the team about what the standard is. But expressing appreciation, that's different. Okay. That's for the individual. And that is personal, and it's heartfelt, And I think it's a way to show that you are truly grateful, right, for their contributions. And I think that that is powerful.
I do too. And, when I think about this book, and also another one that I'm reading, like changing that mindset of leadership. And it's no longer, you manage objects, but you don't manage people. And, just forging that path for trust, leading, trust and inspiring. So you trust, lead, and inspire. You have to have people to trust you. And then you have to lead them to inspire them. And I think this is such a beautiful depiction of that when they talk about the praise model and then their actual true appreciation, not because we want nothing, but just you genuinely appreciate that person, that if something were to happen today and we didn't have the hotel, would you still appreciate that person? So that's what, when you said that was powerful, I really believe that it is. And so that wraps up, as we, what a great way to end it, but that wraps up this episode and our exploration of catching the right things and expressing appreciation. And remember, it's not just about the outcomes. We are so focused on the destination that we really do forget the beauty in the journey. I feel when we're going through the process, we're frustrated in the process, but that's the refinement. That's where you learn all those great things. That's where you get those great moments when you truly are in process and on the way. And so it's about the behaviors and the positive actions that lead to success. So it's not just about the destination while we're on the journey, it's our response to the process. It's about how we perform in those moments. And so I want to thank you guys for joining us for another Leadership Lean In. And until next time, keep catching those winning plays and expressing appreciation in your leadership journey.
Absolutely. And so don't forget, on the very first part of next year, we're going to talk a little bit more about behavior, and we're going to talk about how do we go about converting that below the line behavior. So this episode, we were really focused on catching above the line behavior and expressing, modeling the way and showing praise and expressing appreciation and all of these strategic tactics. But we also know that we have that we encounter people who are, displaying below what they would refer to as below the line behavior. And this next episode is going to be about, okay, how do we address that and how do we convert that? How do we turn that behavior into an above the line behavior, something that we can model and praise? And so I want you guys to keep your eyes out for that, because we're excited about that leadership lesson. And of course, I want everyone to take care, enjoy the holidays. I've got my Christmas tree set up back here. So we do hope that you enjoy the holidays if you celebrate. And of course, Lawanda, are you ready? We're going to end it like we always end everything, and we're going to do our
best. We're going to get it right. For 2023, we're going to get it right. You ready?
All right.
Let's lean in and get better together.
Yay. Awesome. Hey, you guys, we're so thankful again for you guys joining us. Please do download that leadership guide. Take a minute, review the content, go over those questions with your team. Take some time to really dive in, because this content is going to make you better, and that's going to make all of us better. And so we're super grateful for that.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you.